Tonight, flash flooding from an unexpected downpour. Tonight's Australia Day festivities washed out.
Also, a shock courtroom confession from the Oakden nursing home whistleblower, guilty of child sex abuse charges.
Lashing out, heated scenes as an accused parent killer avoids another stint in jail.
An urgent water safety warning as South Aussies head into the Australia Day long weekend.
And Mitch Starc breaks the West Indies spirit while snaring his 350th Test wicket.
Live from Adelaide, 7 News with Rosanna Mangiarelli and Will Goodings.
Good evening. Adelaide's unpredictable summer has struck again, with heavy rains sparking flash flooding across the city and suburbs.
Let's go live to Hayden Nelson at Elder Park. And Hayden, tonight's Australia Day festivities have been all washed out.
It has, Will. Thousands were expected here tonight for the first of Adelaide's Australia Day events, but it's still bucketing down and organisers made the decision to pull the pin. The stage was all set for tonight's laser and fireworks show, but after the drenching we've received today, this was going to kick off 2 days of long weekend celebrations, but it's now been cancelled. Parts of Elder Park have been turned into a mud pit after more than 30 mils was dumped on the city.
Just in consultation with the Bureau of Meteorology, it was just best for everyone's comfort. This 2-day event is going to go ahead tomorrow and it will be absolutely fantastic. Everything we planned today will be extra special tomorrow.
The deluge has wreaked havoc on the roads too. Drivers were caught in flash flooding at Colonel Light Gardens and along Henley Beach Road, while the greens at the Sturt Bowling Club were left underwater, forcing the cancellation of tonight's competition. Here at Elder Park, they're hoping the rains clears overnight and tomorrow's events go ahead as expected. A smoking ceremony is planned at Elder Park at 7:30 tomorrow, at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and a fireworks display at 9:30. Will?
All right, thank you, Hayden. Well, now to the shock child porn confession from the man once hailed a hero for exposing shocking elder abuse.
Oakden whistleblower Stuart Johnston claims he had no choice but to plead guilty to keeping the vile material on a mobile phone.
A spectacular and public fall from grace. Stuart Johnston's world comes crashing down, uttering 3 simple words to the magistrate. Guilty, Your Honour. The man once hailed and admired a hero for exposing the shocking abuse of elderly residents at the state-run Oakden nursing home, this morning confessing to crimes against children.
We had another option but to plead guilty.
The charge, 1 count of knowingly possessing child exploitation material. Today's stunning admission flies in the face of comments he made after his previous hearing just last month.
There's a lot more to the story and it will come out. It will come out very soon. It's not as it seems. We've spent years uncovering terrible atrocities to people, and we've done a lot of work in uncovering a lot of corruption, and there's a lot of people who are quite happy that we've been having to be silent.
Are you saying that someone set you up?
I can't confirm or deny that either.
Today, though, no such claims. The 50-year-old was arrested in May last year after police raided a property at Mannum, seizing 2 identical mobile phones containing images of child sexual abuse. He became the face of and voice for elder abuse victims when he blew the whistle on the atrocities at the Oakden facility, forcing its closure in 2017. He started his own political party, Care Watch Australia, but failed to win any seats in the 2022 federal election. Johnston's lawyer said he needed several months to consult with experts and to obtain psychological reports for the sentencing process, which will begin in May. His son, 25-year-old Corey Johnston, yesterday pleaded guilty to the same charge. Deanna Williams, 7 News.
There have been heated scenes in the city as an accused parent killer narrowly avoided going back to jail. Let's go live to Hannah Ford. And Hannah, her husband lashed out at the media.
He did, Rosanna. The drama unfolded only moments after Raylene Polymiadis learned she'd be allowed to return home on bail. As she and her husband emerged from court with umbrellas, Michael Polymiadis appeared to be furious, pushing and swearing at the waiting media. Do you promise to follow the rules now, Raylene? Raylene, are you relieved to go home again? and there was a real chance Raylene Polemiadis would be ordered back behind bars today. The 62-year-old's accused of murdering her elderly parents with overdoses of her own insulin. Police recently applied to have her bail revoked, claiming she's breached it at least 5 times in the past 2 months, stopping at a Buddhist temple, a cactus shop and a shopping centre on her way to approved appointments. But the magistrate today sided with her lawyer, saying the alleged breaches were relatively minor and did not justify imprisonment. Polemiadis will return to court next month. Will.
Thank you, Hannah. The battle for Stephen Marshall's eastern suburbs seat is on, with Labor today revealing its candidate for Dunstan. Nord mum Cressida O'Hanlon will be aiming to go one better after giving the former Premier a big scare at the last election.
Wearing matching crimson hues, the Premier parades Labor's candidate for Dunstan.
This is Cressida.
Hi, Jen. Nice to meet you.
Wasting no time after the current member, Stephen Marshall, announced he's quitting politics.
I'm really proud of the fact that our party has quickly, in the space of 24 hours, united behind Cressida O'Hanlon.
But the upcoming by-election won't be the mother of four's first taste of politics. In 2019, she ran unsuccessfully in the federal seat of Sturt, then went head-to-head against Stephen Marshall at the 2022 state election, almost dethroning him in the seat he'd held for 12 years.
If you want to make a difference, you can't give up. So I didn't lose by much.
At the end of the day, it won't really be about Cressida O'Hanlon. It'll be a referendum on Peter Malinauskas' leadership.
Nominations for Liberal pre-selection closed late this afternoon, with party members to vote on their preferred candidate over coming weeks.
The front-runner is Dr Anna Finizio, who took on Health Minister Mark Butler in the seat of Hindmarsh at the last federal election.
Well, Anna Finizio would be an excellent member of Parliament, there's no doubt about that.
But the names the Libs were focused on today were those of public holidays, announcing a push to reverse the Premier's decision to strip holidays like Australia Day of their traditional titles.
As the legislation currently stands, tomorrow being Australia Day will be referred to in the legislation as the 26th of January.
They are public holidays that have names for a reason. They're not just dates on our calendar.
But the date that's still up in the air is Dunstan's polling day.
They can't even tell us when the by-election's going to be.
Kimberly Pratt, 7 News.
Witnesses have told how a bloody bashing victim stumbled down a northern suburbs road pleading for help. The 33-year-old was rushed to hospital in a critical condition as police tracked down the suspect.
On Bubna Street, Elizabeth South, a blood trail marks the scene of a brutal attack.
It happens all the time.
It was 11 p.m. when the badly injured victim staggered to his neighbour's home looking for help. He made it to her doorstep, then collapsed.
My next door neighbour had to call the police because they were bleeding and they passed out on her front yard, and by the sounds of it, it was really bad. It scares me a lot.
Emergency crews raced to the scene, paramedics treating the victim for severe facial injuries. The 33-year-old from Burton was taken to the RAH fighting for life, but his condition improved overnight and he's now listed as serious but stable. Residents of the Housing Trust property where the vicious attack played out telling of their shock.
Oh, damn. When this happened, I wasn't here. Makes me feel mad. I don't like it.
Well, I don't know about this. I was trying to figure out what's going on.
He wasn't here too.
Overnight, a 27-year-old Salisbury Downs man was arrested and has been charged with assault causing serious harm. Residents here on Bubna Street say violence is common in the area, telling 7 News police are often responding to drunken arguments and fights.
A couple of days ago, across the road, had someone come to their house with a busted jaw. She had to call the ambulance, and it's from the same house as well.
Police have moved to reassure locals this attack was not random and say the 2 men are known to each other. Peter Caldecott, 7 News.
Dramatic dashcam vision has emerged of an alleged drunk driver slamming into several cars at Lower Mitcham. His Ford Ranger can be seen swerving between lanes before ploughing into the back of a BMW, causing a 5-car chain collision. The 64-year-old driver of the BMW suffered minor injuries. Police say an Aberfoyle Park man returned a blood alcohol reading of .125 and lost his licence on the spot.
Anthony Albanese's confirmed he will give Australians earning less than $150,000 bigger tax cuts at the expense of high-income earners. Opposition leader Peter Dutton has called the Prime Minister a liar, demanding an early election.
He admits he's broken an election promise, though won't say those words.
I'm very clear about the fact that we have changed our position.
Comparing the cost of living crisis to the COVID pandemic, demanding a similar emergency response.
When economic circumstances change, the right thing to do is to change economic policy.
Promising tax cuts for all, including those earning below $40,000, mostly women, who'll get $650.
Under the Morrison plan, they would have got nothing.
Though got plenty in stages 1 and 2, the cuts under his revised stage 3 from July 1, on $60,000 an extra $804 to $1,179, $75,000 jumps to $1,554, $100,000 now $2,179, $150 over $3,700. Above that level, though, tax cuts are halved. For those earning above $190,000, from $9,000 to $4,500. He'll need the Greens' support, and they want more.
As this now works its way through the Parliament, we'll be asking, is this really the best that Labor can do?
Opposition leader Peter Dutton has come out swinging, labelling Anthony Albanese a liar and demanding an election. Although, unlike his deputy Susan Lee, not yet committing to fight the changes.
The Prime Minister has knowingly and willingly lied to the Australian people. I don't think the Australian people will easily forget or forgive. He should call an election and put the change position to the Australian people.
But reserving his final judgment on the package.
Make our position known in due course.
Claiming Mr Albanese's real cynical aim is the Dunkley by-election in Victoria on March 2, forced by the death of Labor's Peter Murphy. The message from there today.
More money in the back pocket.
You know, it's like a few dollars.
No, it's not enough.
It's good for everybody, but keep to his promises.
Meaning he has more explaining to do. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Australian shoppers have long suspected they're being ripped off at the checkout, and soon we'll find out for certain. The federal government has ordered the competition watchdog investigate, as Rob Scott explains.
Well, the ACCC will investigate allegations that the big supermarket chains have been engaging in price gouging, paying particular attention to the difference between how much they pay their suppliers and how much they are charging their customers. So we'll be able to get a real sense of just how big their markups really are. It'll also delve into things like online shopping, loyalty programs and the competitiveness of smaller retailers.
For me, it's this simple. When farmers are selling their product for less, supermarkets should be charging Australians at the checkout less.
Coles and Woolworths say, like all other businesses, they too are battling under rising costs, but they are doing their best to keep their prices on the shelves down. They say they are happy to be part of this investigation, which is set to run for 12 months, with an interim report out later this year.
Thank you, Rob. An Australian family's holiday has turned to tragedy in New Zealand after a 10-year-old girl fell into a fast-flowing creek in the Fiordland region. She was swept away and by the time she was recovered could not be revived. Police say it was a traumatic event and they're providing support to the family.
A Category 3 cyclone's bearing down on Queensland tonight with a direct hit expected in the coming hours. Sally Guyot is in Bowen and Sally, authorities have already declared a disaster.
Yeah, they certainly have, Rosanna. Good evening to you. Now, we've just taken shelter where we are in Bowen because everyone in this region has been warned that they need to do so because Tropical Cyclone Kirrily has intensified. She's now a Category 3 system and right now she's producing wind gusts of up to 165 kilometres an hour. She's making her way toward Townsville and is expected to cross the coast as a Category 3 storm tonight sometime, and it'll be, for the North Queensland town, the worst cyclone they've experienced in more than 50 years when it does cross. Now, it is the likely flooding that will follow this system that is of most concern to authorities. Here in Bowen, we're really starting to get blown away. We're expecting destructive winds up to 155 kilometres an hour because we're on the southern side of the system where it's really going to blow as it comes nearer towards the Queensland coast. We're really bracing for impact here. Rosanna?
All right, thank you, Sally, and take care. A woman's been rescued after spending 14 hours trapped atop her overturned car, which was partially submerged in a rushing river in San Francisco. Emergency crews using a helicopter were able to winch the woman to safety. Firefighters say she's lucky to be alive after underestimating the water levels and attempting to drive across a bridge.
A Scottish grandfather is facing prison in Dubai for asking neighbours to turn down loud music during a New Year's Eve party. Ian McKellar was charged with trespass after entering the neighbour's garden.
He just decided he would just nip in and say, see if you see the host and say to the host, could you put music down a little bit?
The 75-year-old had his visa cancelled and could face several years in prison.
The critically endangered northern white rhino could be saved from extinction after the first successful embryo transfer. Unfortunately, 2 months into the pregnancy, the surrogate mother died from an unrelated bacterial infection, but scientists remain hopeful.
It's a wonderful experience because, it shows that we can bring back the northern white rhino.
There are only 2 infertile females left in the world.
The South Australian doctor who led the heroic rescue of a group of children from a flooded Thai cave has been honoured with a top new job. Richard Harris has been appointed Lieutenant Governor of South Australia, replacing fellow Australian of the Year Dr James Mukey. The anaesthetist was instrumental in saving the 12 trapped children in 2018. His new role will see him represent the state and act as deputy to the Governor. Well deserved.
Yeah, what an experience that was, wasn't
Absolutely,
it? Soda, what have you got coming up?
Well, the Aussies are well on top of the Windies at the Gabba. It has been a great performance by Mitchell Starc, working wonders with the pink ball. He's already notched a huge milestone in this match. Has Novak Djokovic already got one hand on an 11th Australian Open trophy? Well, his path to another title just got a little clearer. And injury blues, one of Carlton's favourite sons, already out for the season. All that and plenty more coming up shortly.
All right, we'll catch you then, Soda. An alarming jump in water-related injuries has prompted a South Australian summer swimming safety blitz. That story's next.
Also, Russia and Ukraine play a blame game over a prisoner of war plane crash.
A 4-metre great white shark shuts a popular interstate swimming spot.
And later, meet Adelaide's 90-year-old Citizen of the Year. An alarming increase in water-related injuries has sparked an urgent safety warning as we head into the Australia Day long weekend.
So far this summer, the number of children treated in hospital has more than doubled compared to last year.
On the River Murray, Isaac McGare is having the time of his life. But moments after capturing this video, the 16-year-old had a terrible accident.
I came across a twig that was probably arm's length sticking out of the water, managed to dodge that. And then came the 2 big wooden submerged poles, and I crashed into them.
It happened in October. The teen was rushed to hospital with multiple fractures to his pelvis and spent months in recovery.
Very good.
Not so. There's been an alarming jump in water-related injuries this summer.
That's jetty jumping, it's speedboating, and it's near drowning accidents. And we want to do anything that we can to prevent these accidents from happening.
A dip in the pool changed Hayley Sands's life. The now 23-year-old's previously spoken to 7 News about her accident.
Not long after my 13th birthday, I dove into a swimming pool. It got whiplash and sustained a C4, C5 incomplete spinal cord injury.
Today, her mum made an urgent plea.
Make sure that you're never alone when you're actually entering the water.
Experts say parents also need to talk to their children about the do's and don'ts of being in the water and how a split-second decision can turn to tragedy.
Know your limits. Don't do stuff that your adults wouldn't do.
Mitchell Sariovsky, 7 News.
Dozens of Ukrainians held as prisoners by Russia have been killed in a plane crash. Moscow blames Kyiv for shooting down the military aircraft, while Ukraine accuses Russia of playing with lives.
In the distance, a military transport plane appears to be falling from the sky before an explosion. The fireball rocking Russia's Belgorod region close to the border with Ukraine. The front of the plane was on fire and then it exploded, this local says. On the ground, it appears there are no survivors. Russia says 74 people on board were killed, including 65 Ukrainians held as POWs en route to a prisoner swap. Moscow claiming the plane was hit by a Ukrainian missile.
The Nazi Kyiv regime took this step, pursuing the goal of blaming Russia for eliminating Ukrainian servicemen.
At the UN, Russia's foreign minister called it a Ukrainian terrorist act. Analysts say it's an attempt by Russia to portray Ukraine as the aggressor nearly 2 years after Moscow's invasion. Ukraine hasn't taken responsibility, but says it wasn't told the airspace in this area was protected, as with previous prisoner swaps. Another battle in the ground and information war. In London, Hugh Whitfeld, 7 News.
Swimmers were ordered out of the water when a great white was spotted close to a pier at Sorrento on Victoria's Mornington Peninsula. The sighting yesterday afternoon caused lifeguards to briefly shut down the popular swimming spot. The shark is believed to be around 4 metres long.
Yikes. Time for more on today's wet summer weather with Casey, who joins us from West Beach tonight.
In case the rain's one for the record books.
Rosanna, the nearby Adelaide airport gauge collected its highest January rainfall on record of 36 millimetres. It really was just central Adelaide, though, and the hills that copped the brunt of the deluge today. The West Terrace gauge so far collecting 35 millimetres and 46 mils up in the hills at Crafers West. From one extreme to another, Maree in the state's far north today resembled a ghost town. The mercury there topped 48.5 degrees. Now that's the official air temperature recorded in the shade, while out in the sun, locals captured a reading of a whopping 61.4. Now back here in Adelaide, the rain looks set to clear in time for the long weekend. Won't be too warm though. 24 tomorrow, 23 Saturday, Sunday's the pick of the week with 28. And where we are now, the Adelaide Sailing Club's preparing to host the Men's Sailing World Championships. It's the only Olympic qualifying event to be held here in SA. It'll see more than 150 sailors from 53 countries compete. And while there's next to no wind out here tonight, there's set to be some great sailing conditions to kick off the event from tomorrow. Those details in the forecast shortly.
Perfect. Thank you, Casey. They call him SA's father of organic fruit and veg, and now he's been named Adelaide's Citizen of the Year. That story's next.
Also, the boss of Boeing under pressure over recent aircraft failures.
A teenage pilot's death raises questions about Australian aviation rules.
And later, why a new Qantas safety video is stirring controversy. The man considered the father of organic fruit and veggies in South Australia has been named Adelaide's Citizen of the Year. 90-year-old Stefan Ulyanov would normally never take a day off work, but today he made an exception to soak up the recognition alongside dozens of new Australians.
If you've ever bought organic produce in SA, Stefan Ulyanov is the man to thank.
It's part of me, it's part of my life.
Born in France, he moved to a local farm in the 60s before selling the state's first certified organic produce a decade later. It's only fitting he'd accept Citizen of the Year alongside nearly 50 new Australians. Speaking 5 languages, Stefan helped new migrants navigate the central market.
I'm very proud because that is, I'm being recognised for something that I have done.
Today, the language of gratitude rang through the town hall.
The day when I completed my master's, I decided this is my home now.
Be able to vote, be able to serve, and be an Australian.
This year, Adelaide City Council returned its citizenship ceremony to January 25, a choice it claims isn't political but financial, avoiding public holiday rates.
And I think, honestly, our staff prefer it because they get a day off.
There's been no days off for Freeling's Harry Schuster, who's carved an Aussie map onto his family's paddock. The 27-year-old engineer used GPS technology to map out the spectacular design. Now these new Aussies will carve out their own future, embracing what they think makes the country great.
People and the ocean, of course.
Tom Johnson, 7 News.
American aviation officials have blocked Boeing from building any more 737 MAX 9s after a door flew off an Alaskan Airlines flight mid-air. The company's chief executive was hauled to Washington to answer some very blunt safety questions.
Sparking terror at 16,000 feet, last month's heart-stopping mid-air emergency. It blew a hole in this Boeing craft and the company's safety record. Its boss called to Capitol Hill today, US safety chiefs issuing a please explain.
Constructive, shared everything I could.
Investigators want to know why defective door plugs were used, and so does Boeing's major customer, Alaskan Airlines.
Flight 1282 should never have happened. Boeing is better than this.
The airline's grounded its fleet of 737 MAX 9s, but a review found Boeing's quality slip-up wasn't isolated.
We found, some loose bolts on many of our MAX 9s.
This model, while not flown in Australia, is widely used across the US and Europe. Its future now in doubt.
Boeing may have initially thought it could have weathered this jumbo-sized public relations headache of having a door blow off one of its craft mid-flight. But as the manufacturer has discovered over the past few weeks, the market can be a lot less forgiving.
A 20% hit to the value of its stocks, but a bigger hit to its reputation.
I'm more than frustrated and disappointed. I am angry.
In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
A 16-year-old killed when his light plane crashed in Sydney's southwest late yesterday was on his first ever solo flight. He was training for a recreational pilot's licence, approved by instructors to fly without supervision.
He was a teenager with dreams of becoming a professional pilot. Halfway through a 6-kilometre loop in a Cessna 172, the first time in the air on his own. He only joined AltoCap flight school in Camden last month.
He was a very bright and enthusiastic individual, and he clearly had a passion for aviation and was pursuing a commercial career.
The aircraft took off from Camden Airport at 3:05 p.m. yesterday, reaching an altitude of 1,500 feet at 3:07. Less than a minute later, contact was lost.
During the left turn onto the base leg of the circuit, the aircraft has rapidly descended and collided with terrain.
Today, the Transport Bureau, forensics and detectives examine the wreckage. The investigation will also include the flying school.
Under civil aviation laws, a 16-year-old can attain a recreational pilot's licence to fly single-engine aircraft without supervision. But to drive to an airport at the same age, they'd need someone else in the car.
There is requisite hours, but there is also instructor, assessment of when students are capable.
Some experts believe the hours aren't enough and the pilot's too young.
It would be a very wise young 16-year-old who says to the instructor, look, I don't think I'm confident enough.
Tom Saker, 7 News.
Well, the flying kangaroos in hot water again. What's behind calls to scrap the latest in-flight safety video? That's next.
Also, cut off at the ankles, a pointed protest at a Captain Cook statue.
And what the lucky and unlucky numbers are for tonight's Powerball jackpot. A statue of Captain Cook has been vandalised in Melbourne. It was one of 2 monuments targeted in a dramatic protest overnight. Vandals took to the bronze figure in St Kilda, cutting it off at the ankles and painting the words, "The colony will fall," on the plinth. A nearby statue of Queen Victoria was also vandalised with red paint.
The latest Qantas in-flight video has sparked a row, with one union claiming it has more to do with destinations than safety. The airline insists it's a clever way to encourage travellers to pay attention about what to do in an emergency.
Hey, I'm Lachlan. I moved to Lapland to marry the love of my life.
It's the in-flight safety video that's not filmed inside an aircraft. Instead, passengers are reminded to buckle up by a sports car driver in Hollywood.
Fasten your seatbelt by inserting the clasp into the buckle.
How to use an oxygen mask. That takes place at Ningaloo Reef.
Oxygen will flow as you take a breath.
And the brace position is taught through a dance sequence in India.
Brace by placing your forehead on the back of the seat.
The flight Attendants Association says the slick production misses the mark.
It doesn't focus enough on the really important safety message. Follow the directions of your cabin crew. They need people ready so that when an evacuation occurs, they get off the aircraft quickly and they follow their directions.
Qantas says it's designed to complement demonstrations by cabin crew. The video is about familiarising our customers with safety procedures, and we try to make it as engaging as possible. This is the first Qantas in-flight safety video in 4 years, commissioned by then CEO Alan Joyce. Rather than being more baggage for the former boss, some say it does a wonderful job.
What we've got here is something bright, it's a bit different, it highlights a whole lot of great destinations around the world and at the same time gives you a very sensible safety message.
Zoe Martin, 7 News.
Well, now for a check of the day in finance with Angela Cox, and Aussie shares head into the long weekend on a 5-day winning streak, Ange.
That's right, the share market will be closed tomorrow, but it was looking good today. The ASX 200 finished 36 points higher. Iron ore miners leading the gains after China's central bank announced policy measures to boost its fragile economy. Local tech stocks slipped after Tesla reported underwhelming results and warned of a sharp sales slowdown. The Aussie dollar is buying just under 66 US cents. Iron ore is selling for more than $135 US a tonne. Oil over $80 US a barrel. And Domino's Pizza has lost a huge slice, with its shares down around 30% after a trading update. While hungry Australians and Germans are buying more pizzas, sales are down in its French and Asian stores.
Thank you, Ange. Millions of Aussies are set to try their luck with hopes of cashing in on a huge Powerball jackpot tonight. But what are the luckiest numbers and the ones to avoid? Don't miss that story a little later in 7 News.
But now here's Ned McHenry with the catch of the day.
Good morning from beautiful Kangaroo Island. As you can see, this place is absolutely magic. We are near Western River, right up on the northwest coast of the island, roughly about 110 kilometres from Adelaide, and we have a massive fishing day ahead. Let's see what you all caught this week, and then I'll show you how we go. Terry and Jack got some garfish at Robe, while Angus, he got a snapper there, and the little legend was stoked. Look at this. Geordie caught a big blue morwong out from Victor Harbour, and look how cute Jace is with his big squid at Vivon Bay Jetty KI. Charlie caught a massive kingfish out from Port Lincoln. Jack, he got a squid at Balgowan, while Renee beachfished for whiting at Moonta Bay. Jono, he had fun catching carp at Tailem Bend, while Kira, she nailed the squid from Stansbury. Thank you for your photos. I need your help, catch of the day crew. What are we having for dinner? Southern calamari, King George whiting, or what about some Kangaroo Island cray? Jump on our Facebook page, 7 News, catch of the day. What are we having for dinner? Or showcase your photos and we'll feature you right here on 7 News.
Sounds delicious. Thank you, Ned. Time for sport now in Soda. Surprise, surprise, the Aussies are on top in the cricket again.
Going very nicely with the pink ball. Mitchell Starc is on fire. The Windies in all sorts of trouble early on. Also coming up, the South Aussie speedster brings the heat in the Big Bash final. Novak Djokovic closes in on an 11th Aussie Open crown with his biggest threat sent packing. And a former Red set to start in the Socceroos Knockout Asian Cup play. Hello again. Mitchell Starc passed 350 wickets on day one of the pink ball test. It was a bowling and slips catching masterclass in typical Gabba conditions. A short time ago, the Windies were 5 for 123.
Hot, humid Brisbane, cyclone looming up north, the Windies chose to confront pink ball cricket head on.
It's all about belief.
Cameron Green played at COVID-safe distance. Australia chose the same bowlers for 5 straight tests for the first time in a decade. Josh Hazlewood's first ball.
Big shout for LBW and given.
Technology saved the Windies skipper, but looked inevitable.
There's the nick though.
Green was unmercifully sent away from the Australian huddle. 2 left-handers, Tajnarine Chanderpaul, especially Kirk McKenzie.
Well, there's the first aggressive shot.
Are the West Indies' great hopes. McKenzie, 23, raw, not at Pat Cummins' level yet.
Edge and taken.
McKenzie, 21, Chanderpaul, 21.
Gone.
Athanase next for 8.
Edged out, another wicket for Stark.
The great Mitchell Stark, fifth into Australia's 350-wicket club with Warne, McGrath, Lyon and Lilly, and counting.
Edged and taken by Khawaja.
Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
Well, South Aussie speedster Spencer Johnson led the Brisbane Heat to its second Big Bash title. There was some late COVID drama for Sixers captain Moses Henriquez, and it led to an uncharacteristically loose performance with the ball at a jam-packed SCG. The Heat made 8 for 166. Johnson started with 4 for 26, while Michael Neser produced another moment of magic in the field.
Taken on. Brilliant. This is remarkable if he's been able to hold. Oh, he's done the can.
That is magnificent. Now, the Heat won easily by 54 runs. Matt Renshaw made an early dash to the Gabbard test for reserve batsman duties.
I don't think I've celebrated enough compared to some of the other boys. They made sure that they enjoyed last night.
Unlike Pat Cummins and Steve Smith, Elise Perry is staying way out of the debate about changing the date of Australia Day.
I think that's a much broader national discussion and one that requires much more acumen than I have.
Indigenous teammate Ash Gardner slammed Cricket Australia's decision to schedule a game on January 26 last year. The Aussies start their multi-format series with South Africa on Saturday at Manuka Oval. That's live on 7. Well, Novak Djokovic's biggest threat to an 11th Australian Open crown has been eliminated in the quarterfinals. World number 2 Carlos Alcaraz lost in 4 sets to German Alexander Zverev. In the women's, China's Qin Wenzheng is through to a Grand Slam final for the very first time.
Every time Novak Djokovic has reached the Final Four in Melbourne, he's left with the trophy. His chances of number 11 just got better.
Now he's done it, and that is the finest win of his career.
The Joker's biggest threat, world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz, ended by Alexander Zverev. A near-flawless serving display dismantling the Wimbledon champ. Next up, Daniil Medvedev.
He's been kicking my ass a lot over the last year or so.
10 years after Li Na's title, a new Chinese star is emerging. Qin Wenzheng into her first Grand Slam semi and world top 10. A new honour for Leighton Hewitt, inducted into the Australian Tennis Hall of Fame, complete with his own bronze bust.
I wasn't sure what to expect, to be honest. Pretty happy to get the hat on backwards.
James Manton, 7 News.
Let's go to footy now, and Blues' favourite son, Jack Silvani, will miss the entire season after rupturing his ACL at training this morning. He's likely to be sidelined for 12 months after recently signing a 2-year contract extension. While at St Kilda, Simon Lethlean has stepped aside as CEO after less than 2 years in the job. He was an AFL executive before he joined the Saints back in 2018 and has filled a variety of roles at Moorabbin. Well, a new South Aussie Socceroo star is emerging at the Asian Cup. Injuries allowed Kusini Yengi to feature in the starting 11 against Uzbekistan, with Graham Arnold raving about the former Reds striker.
It was good to kind of start to build those connections with the players on the field and get a feel for what it is like to, truly be a Socceroo.
Australia plays in the round of 16 on Sunday night. Well, the Adelaide Giants Championship defence continues with the best-of-3 preliminary final against Melbourne starting at West Beach on Friday. MVP candidate Nick Ward says going back-to-back with the Giants outweighs any individual honour.
I'll trade any individual award for a team award because that while the individual award doesn't go away, the team award is something that you shared with 25 other people.
The Giants have won 14 of their past 15 games and are hot favourites to advance to next weekend's grand final series. That is our little look at sport there. Of course, the Aussies, geez, they're looking good against West Indies, aren't they?
Very good.
Mitchell Stark, what about the 5 they named there, the 350 wickets? That is a very, very elite group.
Yeah, it's a remarkable achievement.
Isn't it just? Thank you so much, Soda. Now, Powerball fever has taken over households across the country, with half of all Australian adults expected to enter tonight's mega jackpot.
Yeah, it's a near record, and it could be life-changing, with $150 million up for grabs.
A last-minute lineup to be in with a chance.
I'm hoping somebody wins a big prize.
Raoul's news agency has never sold a Division 1 winning ticket, and like millions of Australians tonight, he's looking to beat the odds.
I'd like a little plaque, and that'll be nice.
The real prize, $150 million.
If one person takes home the entire Division 1 jackpot, they'll become the biggest winner in the history of Australian lotteries.
Once you've purchased a ticket, it's customary to dream, what if?
I'd buy some awesome property on the Gold Coast.
I'd help all my children.
Probably keep it a secret first and tell Dad, be smart about the money.
Sounds like he needs some inspiration. At Southport Super Yacht Terminal sits the 79-metre-long Venus, $120 million, leaving $30 million in spare change.
That sort of money, you could buy every car on the floor.
For those looking to artificial intelligence to get a leg up, ChatGPT can't obviously predict the numbers, but it can pick 8 at random.
There's not much you can do to increase your chances.
The most drawn numbers include 17, 11, 3, 9, with a Powerball of 19 and 2. The least frequently drawn include 33, 34, 1, 14 and 16 for the Powerball.
The draw closes tonight at 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
Georgia Holland, 7 News.
So what he's saying is there's still a little bit of time.
Just a little bit of time. If you don't rock up to work tomorrow, we'll know why.
Exactly right. I'll be here, Rosanna. After the break, maybe for one day, the group of Adelaide knitters who gather together for a weekly natter while helping out the disadvantaged.
And weather-wise, the skies are set to dry up in time for the long weekend. Those details coming up live from West Beach.
The new real estate scam. Fake listings, fake accommodation, costing locals and visitors thousands. How to spot the elaborate trap. Plus, children under 5 with their own mobile phones. Why more Aussie families are taking up the controversial trend. Start with Sunrise tomorrow morning.
Time for more on the weather now with Casey, who joins us again from the Adelaide Sailing Club.
And Casey, the rain isn't over yet.
Well, we're likely to see a few more showers roll through tonight, but come tomorrow, the skies are set to dry up and the winds will pick up in time for the club here to host day one of the Men's Sailing World Championships. It's the only Olympic qualifying event to be held here in SA, with more than 150 sailors from 53 countries ready to compete. Now, as for that rain today, well, if you draw a line from here at West Beach through the city and into the hills, it's those areas that cop the brunt of the deluge. Crafers West recording a whopping 46 millimetres of rain. Now, temperature-wise, the city reached a top of 25.2 this morning and has dropped to around 16 degrees now. Elsewhere around the state, and plenty of extreme heat still around our far north, but temperatures around southern SA were significantly below average today. A low-pressure trough is on its way to the state's northeast, which should eventually deliver some relief from the extreme heat there in coming days. Interstate tomorrow, a very wet day is in store for Darwin, with up to 80 millimetres of rain, a windy 38 for Sydney and a sunny 32 for Perth. Back to SA, and the Bureau's issued a severe warning for damaging winds about the northeast tonight and tomorrow morning, and it's around there too that a severe heat wave warning remains, with Moomba looking at a top of 42 degrees, 26 for Port Augusta, becoming windy, and 24 for Whyalla, 28 for Port Pirie and Renmark, 23 for Clare, Nuriutpa, Murray Bridge, Edithburg and Naracoorte, a possible shower, and 22 for Mount Gambier, and strong winds are forecast about the Spencer Gulf. For the city, a low of 16, then partly cloudy, and 24 tomorrow, just the slight chance of a morning drizzle. On local waters, southwesterly winds to 20 knots, great competitive winds for our sailors here, with seas increasing to 1.5 metres. To fishing, and shorecasters are doing well chasing yellowfin whiting locally, while experienced boaties are hunting a huge school of tuna between KI, Cape Jervis and Victor Harbour. Now, looking at the week ahead, top of 23 Saturday, 28 Sunday, warming up to 32 Monday, with a change due to roll through later that day, then 28 Tuesday and 27 on Wednesday. And before I go, let's take a look at tonight's ray of sunshine. It's a Thursday tradition that brings these women together to help the disadvantaged. This is Knit and Natter at Campbelltown's Langdon Park Retirement Village. Residents assemble with their needles and yarn to craft colourful squares and catch up. The squares are then stitched together to make warm rugs and blankets for the homeless. Some are even shipped overseas for those caught up in global humanitarian crises. What a wonderful initiative. Meanwhile, we wish all the sailors here competing over the next week or so all the very best, especially the Australian competitors.
Absolutely, Casey. What about some of that stuff was good quality stuff? Good gear, that. Not quite the weather for it yet, but it will be soon.
No, not yet.
That's all the news for now. We'll have updates for you throughout the evening.
From all the Adelaide 17 for now, though, it's good night.
Good night.